In this lesson, we will learn how to add animation to our scenes. We will cover using the timeline, the integrated curve editor, and the coordinates window to animate the objects within our scene. Begin by loading the scene that you created in Lesson 5. There are two ways to animate objects within your scene. Auto keyframe mode simplifies the animation process by automatically generating keyframes whenever you move an object. You can also choose to manually add keyframes if you do not want the keyframes to automatically be created. This will insert a new keyframe, but that key will be lost unless you click the Set Key button. Notice if you move the scrubber, the keyframe is lost. For this demonstration, we are going to use the Auto Key mode so that the keyframes are automatically generated. Let's start by animating our lower third bars onto the screen. Because we already have our objects in their final position, the first thing we are going to do is set a keyframe and move it into place. Right-click the X value in the coordinate panel and select Set Keyframe. To move a keyframe, simply select it and drag it to its new position. Next, we will set our starting position. Begin by moving the scrubber back to frame 0. Select the Move tool and drag and drop the bar off the left side of your canvas. You will see a new keyframe generated for the object. You can also use the X, Y, and Z coordinates to move objects. Do the same for the piece on the left-hand side. You can see we now have an animated title. Along with object position, you can animate other parameters of the object such as rotation, scale, and transparency. Let's rotate the globe. Begin by selecting the globe and setting the scrubber at frame 0. Set all of the rotation parameters to 0 using the coordinates window. Move the scrubber to a new location, in this case frame 150, and set the Y rotation to 360 degrees. As you scrub, you will see the globe rotate 360 degrees. Secondary timelines can be used to animate different parameters independently from the main timeline. When a 3D scene is triggered to air, all timelines will be played at the same time. In this example, we are going to animate the globe so that it will continuously spin while the layout is on air. To begin, let's add a second timeline. Click on the New Timeline button and give it a name. Then select that new timeline. You'll notice that the keyframes we previously built are not shown in this timeline. Select the globe item. Notice that on the coordinates settings, the rotation values are grayed out. This is because the rotation parameter was already set for this object on the main timeline. Parameters can only be animated on one timeline within a scene. This is not a problem, however, as we can easily assign the rotation parameters to the new timeline that we created. Click on the main timeline and right-click on the sphere. Select the Assign Parameters to Timeline option, and select the Rotate X, Y, and Z parameters, and then select the Globe Spin timeline, and click Assign. Click back on the Globe Spin timeline. You can see that your globe animation has now been assigned to the new timeline. Next, we need to add a loop so that the globe will continuously spin. To create a loop, simply drag out a region on the Control Actions bar and click the Loop button. You can adjust the start and end points of the loop, and make sure that the loop matches the start and end of the loop that you want. The final thing we need to do is make sure that the rotation animation is nice and smooth. We will use the curve editor to achieve this. The curve editor allows you to fine-tune the position of any parameter for the selected object. Each parameter is color-coded and can be adjusted independently. You can adjust the scale of the view by holding Control and dragging the graph value. This can also be used to expand or contract the length of the timeline. And this is helpful to zoom in on a specific region of the timeline. You will notice that there is currently a nice smooth curve for our animation. This is useful to ease an animation into place. However, because we are looping the action, we want the out animation to be a constant speed. To do this, you can change the curve type for the animation. Each curve type will affect how the animation will appear on air. You can also manually adjust the curve. Select the last keyframe in the curve and then click the linear curve option. Let's save the scene and play it back in G-Scribe. You have now created your first animated 3D scene. In our next lesson, we will look at adding scene actions, including pauses and update points.